What's up, everyone? Welcome back! Today we're diving into something exciting, a brand new tool called React Layers, and we're going to use it to build some seriously cool motion graphic scenes from scratch. If you want to follow along, go ahead and download MotionDesk Panel from the link in the description. It's free to get started. Alright, I've got After Effects open with my panel, so let me head over to the Market tab and install React Layers right from there. Super easy. Now, let me launch it, and here's the interface. You've got a few different sections and tabs, each one doing something unique. Let's break it down. We're starting with the Weave mode. I'll select one layer as my driver layer, hit Pick Driver Layer, then select the layers I want to react to it, and click Apply Weave. Now watch this. I move the driver layer between the others, and boom! It automatically creates space around itself, pushing the surrounding layers apart like it physically exists in that space. You can also adjust the icon gap setting to control how much breathing room you want. And here's where it gets interesting. If I change the scale of the driver layer, the gap reacts to that too. The bigger the layer, the more space it demands. Pretty satisfying. Okay, let me clear the layers and build something more polished. I'll create a text layer and a star shape. This is where Weave really shines. First, I'll make the shape layer 3D. Crank up the extrusion depth under geometry options to give it some depth. Then go into material options and push specular shininess up to 85 for that nice highlight. I'll also drop the opacity to 75% so it blends a bit with the scene. Now, for the text, I want to split it into individual words. I'll open up Text Splitter, switch to word mode, and hit Split. Now each word is its own layer. Back in React Layers, I set the star as my driver, select all the word layers, and hit Apply. Now I animate the star along the Z-axis. And look at that! The text layers react in real time, spacing themselves around the star as it moves through them. I'll add keyframes on position and rotation of the star to create a dynamic, interactive animation. Like the star is actually dancing through the words. And to finish it off, I'll animate the scale of the driver layer too, so the whole thing feels alive and breathing. The result? A motion graphic scene that feels reactive, physical, and way more interesting than manually animating every single layer. Let's keep going. All right, let's build another scene, and this one's got a satisfying little trick to it. Again, I've got a text layer. I'll run Text Splitter, select the layer, and hit Split. Now each word is its own layer. Here's what I'm going to do. I'll take the middle word and move it away from the rest, then close up the gap so the other words sit naturally together, like that word was never there. Now I launch React Layers, set that displaced word as the driver layer, select the remaining text layers, and hit Apply Weave. Watch what happens when I bring that middle word back. The other layers dynamically make room for it, like they're welcoming it home. No manual adjustments, no fussing around, it just knows. Now I'll animate the driver word's scale from 0, 100, 0 to give it a punchy entrance and exit. Then I'll keyframe position and opacity on the rest of the text layers to complete the scene and give it that polished, cinematic feel. Now let's move on to the next tab and a whole different behavior, Repel and Magnet. Instead of picking an existing layer as the driver, I'll click the plus guide button. This automatically creates a dedicated guide layer that acts as the driver. Then, with Repel mode active, I hit apply. And just like that, the guide layer has influence over everything around it. Move it and the other layers run away from it. Animate it and you've got a dynamic repulsion effect with almost zero effort. You can also tweak the settings to control the strength and range of the repulsion. Magnet works the same way. Flip the mode, apply, and now instead of pushing layers away, it pulls them in. It's the same setup, 2 modes, 1 guide layer, infinite possibilities. Let's keep going. Now let's get into one of the most exciting parts of React layers, the Field tab. And trust me, this one changes everything. I've got a text layer ready. I'll fire up Text Splitter one more time, but now I'm splitting by characters. Every single letter gets its own layer. I'll select the star shape as my driver layer. I can choose which properties get affected. Position and scale are already on by default, and that's exactly what I need. I also have 3 optional effects to enable, and I'll turn on blur to add that extra dimension. Then I hit apply field. Now, as I move the star layer toward the text, the letters start reacting. They shift, scale, and blur based on how close the driver gets. I can flip the behavior with invert effects, push the influence in a specific direction using push Y, and control how far the effect reaches with the radius setting. Every little adjustment completely changes the feel of the animation. All right, let me wipe the slate clean and build something really beautiful with Field. I run Text Splitter again, but this time I set the placement to stacked, so all the character layers land exactly on top of each other in one spot. Then I create a null object and place it a short distance away from that stack. Now I parent the first text layer to the null and rotate it 30 degrees. Then I parent the second layer and rotate to 60 degrees. Then 90, then 120. Each time adding another 30 degrees, one layer at a time, until they fan out into a full circle. Now, the null owns the rotation of every single layer, and turning it feels incredibly satisfying. Back in the Field tab, I click Plus Guide to generate a guide layer, enable opacity as a reactive property, select all my text layers, and hit Apply. Then I adjust the settings. I set opacity base to 0, so every layer starts out completely invisible. Then I set opacity active to 100, so each layer lights up fully the moment the field sweeps over it. Now I animate the rotation of the null object. And watch what happens. The guide moves through the layers one by one, revealing them like a beam of light cutting through the dark. Simple to set up, stunning to watch. Now let's move on to the Follow tab, and this one is all about chain reactions. As you can see in the interface, follow can be based on position, rotation, scale, and opacity. You can enable any combination of these depending on what you need. I'll click Plus Guide to create a guide layer as my driver, then select all my circular layers and hit Apply Follow. Now I have a guide layer ready to animate. I'll keyframe its position, and watch what happens. All the circular layers follow it one by one, each with its own delay, like a snake moving through space. That delay value is right there in the guide layer settings, and you can change it before applying to get exactly the timing you want. There are also reverse, random, and ease options in the settings to push the result even further. Play around with these. They can completely transform the personality of the animation. And now the final tab, Scatter. I click Plus Guide, select my layers, and hit Apply Scatter. The layers spread out from the guide in a randomized pattern. But here's what makes it special. There's an extra option in the settings called Randomness, and cranking this up gives the scatter a beautiful, organic, unpredictable quality that feels nothing like a manual layout. And that wraps up our full tour of React layers. 6 different ways to make your layers talk to each other, react to each other, and move together like they actually belong in the same world. If you want to get your hands on React layers and everything else we use in these tutorials, head over to the MotionDesk website and download MotionDesk Panel and start exploring. There's a lot waiting for you in there. Thanks so much for watching. If this was helpful, drop a like and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. See you in the next one!